Did we start with introductions? Is that how we do it?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Paul Sabourin. I'm here. This is helping. I'm Paul Sabourin. I'm half of Paul and Storm. We're a music comedy duo. We've been making music for nearly 20 years. And we co-run a couple of other events. One's a nerd variety show called Wootstock, and one is a yearly fan cruise for Jonathan Colton and Friends called Joko Cruise Crazy. And we have a web series called Learning Town.
Cool. My name is Mark Frauenfelder, and I'm the founder of BoingBoing. It's a website that has been around in one form or another for 25 years now. Started out as a print zine, and now it is a website, and we do a podcast as well. And we have a video channel on Virgin America Airlines.
Hi, I'm Nicole Dieker. I am the only member of the band Hello the Future. I'm performing tomorrow at 1. I am also a freelance writer and ghostwriter.
You write about ghosts, or?
Pretty much.
Cool. It's good that they have somebody there to take down all of our content.
Yeah, they can't hold
Yeah.
a pen.
Right, yeah, totally. You know, one of the cutest things I ever saw was one of my relatives' kids made a little picture, and it was a door, and the ghost was to go through the door, and they put a big piece of cotton on the doorknob so that the ghost wouldn't bump its nose. I know, right? I don't do kids, but that's fucking cute. My name's Steven. I'm half of the band Ego Likeness. We are on Metropolis Records. We tour across the world. I'm an author of a children's book called Lunameris, which is probably the only children's book in the world with a coelacanth in it. I've done illustration for Weird Tales, steampunk, and anybody else who will give me money to do it. All right, good night.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, you've been a wonderful audience.
Shall I? Great.
If you would like to.
So this panel is called How to Make 10/10ths of a Living, and it has some other title in front of it. And part of the reason why this panel exists is because one of the secrets of making creative things is that one creative thing very seldom pays all the bills. So at this point right now, for example, I am making about 30% of my income from music and playing, and from you all buying my stuff, which you will. We'll talk about that later. And about
Whether you like it or
70,
not.
yes, I know. They'll buy your stuff too as well.
I have no doubt.
Anyway, what I mean to say is about 30% from the music, 70% from the writing, and I'm sure everyone and this panel has a sort of different percentage. So we're here to talk about that, and we're here to answer any of your questions.
Maybe we should just go down, once again, start and just talk about the revenue streams that we use to do what we do.
Well, our income comes, as you might guess, since we're a performing group, from live performances, digital and physical sales of our music, and other merchandise, mostly at shows. We don't currently really distribute much physical merchandise through online sales yet. That's the vast majority of our work, although we just recently started actively pursuing having our music in things like movies, after one of them fell into our lap this year. But those are the main streams that we are taking advantage of right now.
So BoingBoing is advertiser sponsored, and I'd say we sell about 60% of our ads through a company called Federated Media that gets campaigns for us and sells ads. They sell advertising for about 300 websites, I think. And we work very closely with them to come up with campaigns that go beyond traditional advertising. For example, last weekend we did something with Ford. There was a 2-day event where the first day was a hack day, and we invited some of our favorite hackers to go to a hackerspace in San Francisco and work on this new technology that Ford has in their cars to pump data out of the car, and people could do cool things with it. And then we had like a TED-like event the next day. So we do things like that. And then we sell ads ourselves also, really just by calling companies that we like a lot, that we use their products, like Rickshaw Bag Works. They make custom messenger bags in San Francisco. I just called them on the phone and said that I love what the product that they have, and that I would like to have them be a sponsor on our podcast, and they like that idea. And then another's Blackwing pencils. They make my favorite kind of pencil that I've raved about for years, and so they were more than happy to do a sponsorship and sent us a bunch of pencils to give away at our events and stuff like that. So that's how BoingBoing makes money. And then I also just supplement my income in several ways. One is that I'm the editor of a technology project magazine called Make. It's a quarterly magazine. It's not a full-time job because it's quarterly, but that's a great way to do it. And I also write books and do occasional illustrating and freelance writing jobs. And so it's all the kind of stuff that and I try to, like, if I do something, see how much I can repurpose it or have it spread into other things too. That's really helps, is to, like, try to double duty or triple duty your work. And all the things that I do, these different entities, there's fuzzy boundaries with them, so it works out.
As I mentioned before, I both play and perform and sell music, and then I also write for a couple of different clients. And the interesting thing about the music as an income stream is I make a fairly decent gross amount of money with music, but I make very little profit. So the writing started out as a way to supplement the music so I could afford to be here. And then I started making enough money that it would be stupid not to actually do more of this and less of that. So that is how I ended up where I am now.
Our main, much like Mark said, everything that we do is all, I remember you, is all part of the whole thing. One of the ways I try and explain it to people is, you can look at any one thing as a brand, but really, Ego Likeness could be a brand, but really the brand is Stephen and Donna. And my real job is to get the idea in people's heads that what we make has substance and that it is something worth supporting. And everything else is kind of a gateway to that. When we tour, I bring a big pile of artwork out with me, sell the artwork for maybe $35 a pop. And we also have all the CDs and the T-shirts and things like that. But one of the things that's really wonderful about that is, like, you can buy a CD once, you can buy a T-shirt once, or whenever a new one comes out. The artwork, people will come out and they'll walk away with 5, 10 of these $30 pieces. We also come out on tour with the new books. So it's a way of kind of, if you liked this, then you may also like this, and this. And between the lot of it, we are able to make a living doing what we do. And what is bringing the income, well, I was going to say what brings the income anytime changes, but really the artwork is the main bulk of our income, because we sell a lot of shows, but then we come home and we interact really heavily with our Facebook fan base. And there's all kinds of different, I'm not going to call them tricks because I don't mean that to sound manipulative, but we change what is available at given times because a certain type of thing, like a bunch of Raven paintings will sell one week, or a bunch of paintings based on my kid's book will sell the next book, or next week, or some really weird bio-horror thing will sell, and you just never know. So I'm constantly kind of shifting through the things that people seem to be getting into at any given time. So really our everything we do centers around just trying to build up that relationship with our fans.
So there's that.
So there's that. I think one of the things that continues to pop up, I think this is the third or fourth panel I've done this weekend, and really continues to pop up is I don't know of anybody in the music scene, and we've been doing this for a long time, and I'm not talking about the mainstream scene. I can't speak for that. I don't know them, but as far as independent, not U2 artists, I don't know of anybody who makes a living doing music full time. But I know a lot of people who make a living doing what we do, and are able to really take advantage of independent distribution with various things. Like, we're signed to a record label, but part of our deal is that we are able to independently release our own things. We own everything. They lease it from us. we're signed to a publisher, but it's the same kind of deal with that. So and the reason that's important is like we work with a label called Metropolis Records, and we are able to release our albums through them, but we are also to be able to release limited edition EPs, and then on our own, directly to our fan base, and then lease it back to them for digital releases. So once again, you're able to make the most out of one thing that you do. How do you guys find cross-pollination with your various projects?
It's necessary, that's for
Well,
damn sure.
absolutely.
I mean, again, it's not any grand revelation to say things like, if you want to make a living doing something creative, whether it's art or writing or music, you're going to have to get good at a lot of things, and a lot of things that you didn't necessarily expect to get good at. Paul and Storm, our duo, now co-produce this live variety show that we put on a few times during the year called Woodstock. We started because we thought it would be cool, and we didn't see a lot of it where, hey, let's do this show where we have 6 or 7 or 8 acts in doing a little short thing, and they're all vaguely nerd themed, but mostly it's just, let's put on a show that we wanted to see. And very quickly we realized that there's more to putting on a show than saying, everybody meet at the theater, and we'll have a sound check, and everyone will go on stage, and it'll all go great. And so...
That doesn't work.
Amazingly enough, it doesn't work great. And it's not like we went in that naively, but you learn very quickly that there is the cliche, the devil is in the details, is absolutely true. That suddenly there's a lot of things that go on that maybe you didn't have to deal with before when you were just dropping in to do a set on an open mic night or something. And you have to decide very quickly, you either need to go out and pay somebody to do those things, there's a reason, why somebody's getting their cut to do that kind of thing, or just put in the time to learn how to program a show so that people don't get bored an hour and a half in, and learn, how to schedule things properly and use Priceline and Hipmunk and Hotels.com and whatever so that you're not losing your shirt on paying for hotel rooms for your 8 different performing guests. You suddenly have to learn how to balance the books on a business as opposed to just your home checkbook, which is an entirely separate, not entirely separate skill set, but it is not necessarily an analogous skill set. So you have to be prepared to do a lot of things that aren't necessarily directly creative in order to accomplish your ends. But if they're all sort of working towards that ends, that it is not necessarily a soul-crushing, I got into this to do awesome creative things, and now all I'm doing is math. May not work for you.
So yeah, I think taking what you're good at or what you know a lot about and spreading that into different areas as much as possible is a really good approach. And for me, it's good also because I like to have money coming from a lot of different sources, because if one dries up, you still have it coming from other places, because things, rise and fall all the time. And so the more you can spread out and have money coming from different places, I think the more secure you'll feel, because being a freelancer can be a really, really nerve-wracking existence. And so as many contracts as you can get, as many income streams. So like, for example, I just finished a book called Maker Dad. It's going to come out in 2014. It's about projects for dads and daughters to do together. And so when that book comes out, I'll be able to take it to Maker Faire. I'll be able to excerpt it in Make Magazine. I'll be able to plug it on BoingBoing. So that's a good example of like cross-pollinating. And then another example is like the Ford event that we had, where we had the hack day and we had all these hackers. I knew a lot of hackers just because I work at Make Magazine, so I know all the contributors. And I said to them, hey, would you like to come to this BoingBoing thing? So take advantage as much as you can of your contacts and your skills to do other things that can make use of them. I think that's a really important thing to do. It, if you strike out on something that you don't know what you're doing, there's not going to be money coming for a while, and you just have to be willing to accept that. And maybe that's the thing you want to do, but you just have to realize that chances are, there really are there's no such thing as an overnight success. It's going to take you years and years and years for anything for you to start making money that counts.
For me, cross-pollination doesn't particularly come into, my two separate income streams, in part because I've signed a couple NDAs and I can't even tell you who I'm writing for, kind of thing.
You could tell us, but you'd have to kill us.
Well, right, exactly. I could send you links,
That's
but...
the thing you should talk about.
Right.
All the people you work for.
Exactly.
Right,
This will be the after panel when
Yeah,
I've had a couple of
it's,
bourbons.
It's the cool kids panel that you guys don't get to go to. So.
Yeah. But I do want to follow up on something Mark said about sort of the insecurity of freelancing. It was, when I made the leap, that was one of the things I worried about the most. It was like, OMG, it's going to be so terrible, and I'm going to have to live in a house with like 8 roommates, and I'm not going to have health insurance. And I thought, wait a minute, I already live in a house with 8 roommates, and I don't have, so what am I waiting for, right? So what I mean to say is this. If you are at a particular job situation that might not be secure, freelancing is not that much more of a risk.
That's true. Yeah.
Yep.
It's in today's climate, you could be fired like that, or laid off, or whatever the word is that you want to use. So there is no job security.
It's funny. I was thinking about something that I have not seen anybody talk about on these panels, and I think it's something that we don't talk about. People who do what we do don't talk about very often because it makes you sound like an asshole. But you really have to learn to become a character, a person, I was talking with a friend of mine last night who works with another convention, and we were brainstorming for people that he could bring in that would pull in different groups. And the thing I kept coming back to is you aren't looking at something that, and yeah, maybe somebody does something really, really interesting, and that's cool, and the people who like that little niche thing will be into it. But then you try and find the people that do something really interesting, but they are really interesting, just innate to they have that level of personality. And a lot of making all of this work is just taking whatever amount of charisma, style, lack of style, whatever your big Buddy Holly pair of glasses is, and turning it up as far as you can in a very necessary, in a very tasteful and appreciative way of your fan base. You can't all just run around and be like, hey, look at me. Mm-hmm. But, you can't, that goes a very, very long way. You want to put yourself in a situation where you are perceived as a resource that other people will go to find out information. I was thinking about what you do, and full disclosure, I've been reading BoingBoing for 10 years. And but I think that if you can put yourself in a situation where you become the content delivery stream to all of these other people, your fan base, or just other people, just people are on Facebook or whatever. I tend to use Facebook a lot just because that interface works really well for me. But it's not just about what you do. Like I on my Facebook page, I get really in deep with like whatever I'm reading at any given time, talking about just anything that, whatever it is that you love. And that's the other thing that keeps popping up with these panels is the people that are up here doing this. And one of the things that I think keeps all of us going is that we love what we do more than anything else. And the way to make that turn into a thing is by just stepping up and talking about it. You can love, we have access to the entire world, digitally on the internet, or however many people are there. A whole hell of a lot more than we had before. So let's say you love one-sided pink widgets. You just think they're the best thing in the world, and you've got a whole big shrine to one-sided pink widgets that go on your wall. You know every single version, all their model numbers, etc. If you keep sticking that out there, eventually you're going to find 1,000 people that love one-sided pink widgets just as much as you do. And they'll become part of it, and it just starts to snowball out. And then you get these other people who are like, I keep hearing these people talking about these one-sided pink widgets. I could use a new widget. I may have to check this out. And if you happen to also be the distributor or the manufacturer of those one-sided pink widgets, that puts you in a great position to, I feel, honestly talk and promote what you do without being, hey there, you want this because it'll make you cool. You know, not being that guy, you know, because you're also bringing in all of these other things that you think are cool. And you know, BoingBoing's a great example of that, because you do see all of these different types of things in addition to yours and Corey's projects.
Well, thanks. There's this good book called, well, one thing that you mentioned about like 1,000 people who can like kind of gravitate around some. There's a great essay by Kevin Kelly called 1,000 True Fans. Yeah. If you have read that, haven't read it, I recommend it. Just type in 1,000 True Fans. The other one, there's a good book called The Art of Doing, and by Camille Sweeney and Josh Gosfeld. And they interview a number of people like this, the director of SETI, some actors, just people who are really good at what they do and how they got there. And one of them is a window dresser. I can't remember his name, but he does like a lot of taxidermy and stuff. And his advice is to like, whatever you do, no matter what it is, like strive to be the most fabulous at it. So like if you are a dog groomer, be like fabulous dog groomer, you know, have a 2-foot tall beehive hairdo and like do up your place in like a really cool like mid-century modern retro look or something. Be distinctive like that and get noticed, you know. Do something that you're really good at doing, because you can't like bake that. But then like jazz it up, like you were saying, you know.
Well, like my favorite story is about Buddy Holly and his manager. And his manager, like Buddy Holly's like, well, I need to wear glasses. And his manager's like, well, if you're going to wear glasses, you need to wear glasses. You know, and you just take these things that you need and embiggen them, you know. And one of the ways I always explain to our fans when I'm talking about live shows and things like that is like, it's not a performance as far as becoming a character or anything like that. Really, it just boils down to, it is just us turned up. That's it. I mean, it's getting rid of all of the boring elements that you deal with in real life and just trying to inhabit the things you love. You know, and I think that's a lot of what that it's not about manufacturing a giant idea. That if you do that and you don't mean it, it doesn't work. Like you have to, you know, and I was just talking to somebody recently about a very flamboyant magician that operates in the goth scene. It's on TV that you may have seen. And why it is he comes across as a complete douche. And we had a good long talk about it once again on Facebook. And I was like, why is that? What is it about what he's doing that reads so false? And it's because it's so forced. It looks like, well, I went through these copies of propaganda here, and, you know, I'm very concerned that you feel that I am this thing. As opposed to, I am this thing, and I'm really proud of it, and I love it. And I think that there's a real balancing act. You know, there's a lot of people, you get money or whatever, and I think it's very tempting to go, oh, okay, well now I'm going to market to this guy, and this guy. And everybody knows. They might not know that they know, but they know. If you can but dig it.
Do you have anything to add?
One of my problems is that I have a hard time multitasking. I have a lot of different projects in a lot of different areas. But I have a hard time working all of them at the same time. I tend to throw myself into one and then the others get thrown by the wayside. Do any of you have those problems, or
Yes.
how do you manage that? Or would you say just don't worry about it, whatever, go where the your energy is. I just don't know how to manage myself sometimes
Yeah.
in all the things I'm doing.
Is it okay if I?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I have that problem, I have like a lot of different things going on at the same time, sometimes like 5 or 6 projects. And the way that I have finally done it, like after lots of experimenting, is it's like on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, I write down my goals for the week, what I want to accomplish by the end of the week. And then each morning I make a to-do list in order of the things that I have to do. And if I have a lot of projects, I'll devote, accomplish a subtask. Just get that done. And if there's something that's a deadline, I might have to really concentrate on that for a few hours or whatever, or the whole day. But anyway, I make that list, and then I just go into what I call robot mode. I look at that first item on the list, and I pretend nothing else exists in the world, and I just finish it. Of course, interruptions happen, and you have to live kind of this interrupt-driven life, but I just get right back on task, cross it off, what's the next thing on my list? Nothing else exists but that second thing. And I do it and I never reach the end of the list. But then the next day, I make my new list, incorporate the ones that I didn't do. That seems to be so far the best thing I've come up with. So you're not really multitasking. It's like the old time sharing computers. You just slice of full attention on a task. Do it. You're done. Okay, what's next?
Can I ask, what's the nature of your project? Or is it writing? Is it?
Writing.
And so it's not necessarily. Is it just sort of at this point? Is it just something that you're
I
doing
write
because you
nonfiction,
enjoy?
I
Or?
write fiction, I write different types of, I'm working on a novel, I'm working on short stories, I'm working on several different nonfiction in different genres, and so there's lots of different places I'm working in them, and sometimes I feel like all my creative energy is going into marketing.
That doesn't change.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, okay, this thing's selling, but this is where I want to put all my energy. I think the list idea is going to help me, but other ideas would be good.
I have the worst work ethic of just about anybody I know, and I hate this answer because I want there to be another one. I have a terrible work ethic, and I'm also really bad at setting artificial deadlines, like saying, well, I will finish this thing in 2 weeks, and there is my deadline, and I'll be really mad at myself if I don't do it. And that's usually not enough for me. And if you can, if there's either some sort of external deadline that is set for you, or you give yourself put something at stake, like say you've got this writing, book yourself at a reading, if there's some sort of gathering where people go to read their stuff, and they do it every month or something.
Or this convention's coming up.
Yeah, this
so I
convention's
wanna
coming
make
up.
sure
I'm going to sign up for a panel at this convention, and I'm going to be giving a panel by date X at this convention about this thing that I have not finished yet.
and I'm going to finish it so I can sell it.
Yeah.
Right. That external deadlines are great because there's shit at stake when you have them, and it's more than just I'll be sad if I don't finish this thing. And find something that's not just artificial like that. Find something. Give yourself some stakes, and I think you'll find things. I mean, it's not magical, but things will sort of start to sort themselves out really quick when you have something like that. You will find a way to make it happen. If this is a thing that you are truly want to make happen, you'll find a way to make it work. That said, don't set something completely unrealistic, but find something to force you to do it. And if you can't do that internally, make it happen externally. What's that?
Occasionally do set something really unrealistic.
Well,
just
yeah.
Just to see how close you can get. Because sometimes it works.
And if you are struggling to decide, which of my multiple ideas should I write about first, there are 2 ways to approach it. There's closest to cash, and there's closest to awesome. So closest to cash is, if I write this thing, I am likely to make money for it, even if it's an article about prom hair, and I've done plenty of those. Closest to awesome is something that you're going to be really proud of and really happy to show people, even if it is not as lucrative, maybe, as another project. And those surprise you. Some of those turn out to be really, that's magic of how that works.
I've learned just over the years that I have no concept of what's going to work and what won't. So I just do all of it. I don't self-censor with my artwork. If I get an idea, because eventually it will go, and it may be a year or it may be immediately. You just never know. One of the things with the list thing that I do is, I'll have my list, and then I'll go through it and I'll triage it, and I'll go, okay, hey, this thing that I really need to do will only take me 5 minutes to do it. I just need to just do it. So I'll go down the list and then triage, and all of a sudden, like within half an hour or whatever, you've knocked out half of that list, and it's like, okay, cool. And then you can start kind of going, okay, now here's this big thing that I need to do, and do that. I learned really early on that I have a very hard time working without a deadline also, and that drives me nuts, particularly with the music stuff. But I learned that I need a reason to do something. So I used to book art shows with no artwork ready for it. So I'd be like, okay, well, got 6 months, asshole. Time to be interesting. So you now I don't really have that problem because the imperative is financial. But another trick that I recommend to people who are like, well, I want to get into doing X thing. Utilize your friends. Use social networking and shame yourself. Get online and say, hey, in all caps, I am going to release a 4-song EP by the end of this month, and if I don't do it, you can call me an asshole. And I mean, seriously, it works, and it's making yourself accountable to people who really care about you. And if you continue to do that, or if you do it, and if you say that and then you don't actually do it, and then you continue to do that, you will actually begin to feel the repercussions, and you will see how many times I have set myself up and I have said I was going to do something and I didn't. Well, maybe I don't really want to do it, or then it forces you into a situation where you have to analyze those choices that you make. I mean, my wife's a great example. She's a really great visual artist. She decided after a while, she was like, I can either do this music stuff over here, or I can spend a bunch of time doing art. But it would take me a long time to get up to the point where I want to be, so I'm not going to do that anymore. And all of a sudden, that just freed up this whole other section that she kind of had left over as part of her identity. She was able to kind of go, oh, I could do that, but this is more important to me right now.
Other?
Do you think it's possible to, or do you have any knowledge that it's possible to produce music and not perform it live and have that music go anywhere or do anything?
Everything's possible. I mean, it depends on the type of music. That's actually not true. I think that you can make anything you want, but you just have to be very, very careful about your distribution streams. I've got an entire project that's completely self-involved. It's really abstract electronica, and I put it out online for free. There's like 14 albums up there online for free, and then I do donations, or whenever I put out a new one, I say, okay, limited edition, 50 USB drives, $40, and you get all of this other stuff along with it. So, I think initially, you figure out how much money you're willing to lose, and then put that money into getting proper recordings, doing whatever it is you do, make the best thing you can make, and then you throw it out into the world and get exposure. Because no label will sign you if you're not performing live. It just won't happen. But, it's kind of like publishing a book and then not bothering to go anywhere and say, hey, this exists, or not going on a book tour. You're not utilizing your tool of being you as a vehicle for making people aware of it.
Are you talking about like electronica or non-acoustic music? Are you talking about something that can't physically be performed? Or are you talking about,
Yeah.
okay.
Produce something like electronica, and you can't play everything at once on stage, obviously.
Right.
Oh, well,
right.
that's not a problem. I mean, we go out with, we've got an entire rack of gear that makes it so I don't have to have 10 musicians on stage. And it's all running off the laptop, and we've got our 2 drummers. I play guitar, my wife sings. And I got a little pedal that advances from song to song to song. The tracks play. The laptop's right on stage. We're not trying to fool anybody about it. And we've done that same show with just the two of us, and no drummers, no nothing. And as long as you mean it, the audience doesn't care, particularly with dance music, because, you know, let's look at early 90s house. You know, that wasn't about the thing, that was about the show, or the voice, and the, you know, I want to see you sweat, you know, that kind of thing. And so, really, I mean, and I went to see Dead or Alive a billion years ago, and it was just the singer with a backup singer and playing against a CD. So, I mean, it can totally be done.
Any other questions?
I'll throw it out there just to piggyback. So, creative pipes. When you have something, let's just, for example, say Woodstock, you know that's coming up. You stockpile creative things to continue to release to keep your audience engaged when you know your focus is going to be on something for X amount of time and you can't produce new things? Or do you just kind of let that go by the wayside, focus 100% on what's coming up, and then get back to it later?
Give me a lot of credit that I can plan that far ahead.
theory.
In a perfect world, in theory, if you are an act that is putting out content with regularity like that, then that's certainly absolutely the best idea. The truth of the matter is, our band, it's not, we don't have a constant stream of content going out. And maybe and probably we should, but that's just sort of not the way we've operated for the past couple of years. I don't. There's not necessarily a magic formula to making that happen, but certainly in the ideal, you should always be putting out something new for people to consume, so that you're still staying on their mind and that they still have something new to buy and spend money on you for. I wish we were better at that.
Although honestly, if you have that distribution system in place, website, Facebook, whatever, it doesn't have to be your content. As long as there's some, like, you go to Facebook and you see and I post a lot on Facebook, maybe 10% of it's me trying to sell something. The rest of it's, cat pictures or just whatever random thing I find amusing at any given time. And what happens with that is, in addition to being able to just be who you are with your fan base, which is really cool, you're also, people are going through their feed and they see your name and then they associate that with something interesting. And then they begin to develop this perception of a relationship with you. And I mean, that goes a really long way. The last tour we did, we had people showing up at our shows with food, because they knew we were on tour. We were on tour. We at one point I posted, I was like, yeah, we're not going to, our Thanksgiving this year is in a Denny's on our way to Texas. The next show in Texas, somebody showed up with an entire Thanksgiving spread that ran down the bar. It's insane. And so yeah, like having, it doesn't have to be your thing. And you can always rehash. I don't know what kind of a volume you have of your material, but like I go through YouTube and find like remixes I did or whatever and just repost all this old stuff, just kind of say, hey, this still exists. And you guys do that too now with the, that's a fairly new thing for you guys, I think, with the 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we are doing that on BoingBoing. It's been around long enough as a blog that every day we have a post that's something we posted about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and 1 year ago. And then I also try to front load posts, like when I travel or do things like this. Like I have another website that I edit is called Cool Tools. It's something that I do with Kevin Kelly, at 100 or 1,000 True Fans guy. I think it was 100 True Fans, actually.
Yeah.
No, it's actually 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000. Anyway, it's reviews of tools, things that we think are useful to people, and I front load that thing, so it's like scheduled a month in advance, so that I can like take a vacation with my family and know that things are not going to fall by the wayside while I'm away. So you guys are ready to conquer the world?
Yeah, I mean, have you learned everything that we've imparted to you? You're gonna.
Any overall advice, like put into I don't know, something we should take away from this?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want as long as you really, really mean it and really, really love it and are willing to take all of the pain that comes along with those choices. 'Cause you're really willing to own the choices that you make, and it's going to take forever for it to kind of work. There is no such thing as success. There's just a different door into a different room, and the only thing that seems to really change is the number of zeros on the amount going out and the amount coming back in. But the ratio stays pretty much the same. So, I mean, I think that yeah, if you love it more than anything else, just do it. And even if it's just those one-sided pink widgets, the people, there are people out there who love those weird one-sided things,
They're selling one-sided pink dice in the dealer's room.
Are they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can.
one-sided.
One-sided
How
dice.
does
Yeah,
that
how
work?
does
Is it
that
all
It's a
round?
movie strip. It's a
Oh,
dice shaped like a
cool.
movie strip.
Wow.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, right? I have a real hard time picturing that.
Well, they're selling them for $10, so you
Next
should
we
go
have
get one to find
Tesseract
out.
dice. Yeah. You can only see the numbers from the fourth dimension, but they're there.
It's a die that's perpendicular to everything.
So we have a writer, we have a musician, what else do you guys do?
I'm an artist. I have an Etsy shop and also have
Mhm.
a shop on Zazzle, but I also learned that just putting it out there on those sites isn't enough.
Mhm.
And it's like I try Twitter and it gets lost in the ether.
Mhm.
And yeah, I do Facebook, but and I have a blog and it's like, it still feels like it's not enough.
Well,
It kind of never is. I mean, sometimes you have to alter the scale you're looking at, because if you're just sort of throwing stuff out on Twitter, it's almost literally like taking your art and throwing it out of a building. I'm sort of speaking out of my ass here because I don't know how, it's not a form I'm not very familiar with, but are there, scale down a bit, are there artist groups where people, not support groups is the wrong word, but the equivalent of like song circles where you can get together and share what you've been working on and talk to each other's stuff. It's very small scale, but it starts you at least in a circle of people who are interested in the same thing, and you're there physically and you're there to support each other. Or if there are sort of subgroup equivalents, either smaller Facebook groups or websites or cons or whatever, places where you can get together with a smaller population, but it's all people who are sort of into the same thing and working toward the same ends. It's surprising how helpful those can be.
look to blogs. I mean, you find the one-sided pink widget blog and go, hey, guys, I got this thing. So look into, because I mean, there's stuff that's so specific now that you just have to look for it, and eventually you'll find something that's exactly what you do, and you're able to kind of go, hey, I do this too, or something that's 1 degree of separation off, and say, hey, you just step up and you make sure people know what you do. I got my gig with Weird Tales because I walked up to their editor and said, hi, this is what I do. I'd really like to work with you guys. I showed him what I did, and that was pretty much it. I got a thing on IO9 one time because I just wrote them and said, hi, these are the things that I do. It kind of fits with what you do. And blogs like that are always looking for content, so.
And I would suggest contacting the people who have purchased your artwork before and telling them, please help spread the word. Thank you for buying my art, and if you could tell others, it's a great way to support me.
Mhm. Mhm. What other, so we brought up Etsy. What other sources of revenue do you guys use personally for getting things out?
Like where we sell things or where we
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
things?
where you sell things?
I sell things on Bandcamp and iTunes and Amazon and Spotify and Radio? How do you say that? Basically everywhere that TuneCore puts my stuff, I sell it. And I also sell it in person.
Mhm.
Are there other sort of places for music that I...
Well, I don't know. One of the things that we do is we do a lot of like limited edition, signed, numbered. You buy the CD, you're going to get a free shirt with it. Something that you can go directly to people, because the CDs cost you. If you're manufacturing the substrate, you're spending $300 or $3 rather per unit, or $1.50 or whatever. So then you go, well, I could sell this to somebody for $10, but I can also sell them this shirt and a CD for $25. So you just figure out ways to personalize the experience, personalize the choices, or the product, to add more to it, but also make it work for everybody involved. I do a ridiculous amount of business through Etsy, and so.
Oh, so you sell like
Artwork.
packages on Etsy?
I sell artwork through
Okay.
it, but you can sell CDs. You, like, particularly if you're doing limited edition stuff like that, like, I think that would be a really great way to do it, honestly. I've never gotten around to it because we have our own kind of store through our website. But yeah, I don't see any particularly if you made a CD and then you just hand printed every cover, or hand silkscreen the cover and then colored it, whatever. Just as long as it has that stamp of uniqueness to it. I see no reason why you shouldn't do it, honestly.
Makes sense.
And it's just one more way that people can find what you do. Impulse buys are a huge thing. As much as I dislike the concept of culture mashing, because it has become, I feel like it's watering down original content. There are less people coming up with new ideas for things, and more people going, I could mix Invader Zim and Doctor Who and sell 1,000 T-shirts. We just did a T-shirt for the band that's using the silhouettes from Reservoir Dogs, but redone, looking more like us, and put it up online, and everybody immediately jumped on it. And we're like, you create the artificial scarcity by saying, this is only available for a month, it's only available online, we're not selling these at shows. So that's another way, just kind of thinking about how to create that relationship with your audience and also make a living doing it.
Nerds love a reference.
Yes. Yeah, at one point I did the band logo in the Aperture Science font, and they're like Ego Likeness Galactica and things like that. So, and it's not because I'm trying to court that, it's just that I think it's funny.
So, question back there?
So, talking of revenue streams, do any of you generate any significant revenue from selling ads? Is that an avenue
Good
worth
question.
pursuing? I know you have BoingBoing, obviously, so you're getting a lot of web hits there. So your answer is probably going to be different than the neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, that's, BoingBoing makes, I would say, 99% of its revenue from ad sales. We do sell some merchandise and things like that, but we sell it basically, we pick our favorite artists to design shirts that have the word BoingBoing on them somewhere, and we sell them at such a low price, we don't really make money from it. So it is all ad-based for me. I'd be interested in hearing your answers.
My experience with advertising, at least on the web, was when our last EP came out, we had a video that went with it, and I just, as an experiment, went through the Facebook advertising system. I dumped maybe like $50 into it. And, it's the video got a lot of hits. I can't tell you how many CDs we sold from that, but the video got picked up by television channels in Russia. And I'd like, it may be because of that, it may be because, our one Russian fan happens to know somebody. But, it's certainly, it worked, it exposed it. Beyond that, our major advertising is just us acting like idiots online.
Now, are you talking about like placing ads on your site as opposed to?
That's kind of what I was going for, but
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, we don't have ads on our website, not from any particular philosophical reason, other than for a very long time our hit count wasn't enough that we felt it was really justified, and a lot of our output, certainly in the last couple of years, have been through other avenues. Like our web series is on the Geek and Sundry channel, so it's not our baby, but there's certainly ads going on before that. We certainly have no philosophical problem with it. I couldn't tell you how the numbers are. If it's a question you're trying to figure out, will I make enough to make up for the people I might turn off because there's ads on my site? That's really like a question only you can answer. how far you're willing to go with it. But if you're okay with it.
The people you might want to approach about is just go into the dealer room and talk to the people who do the webcomics, because I imagine a good chunk of their advertising happens on a much smaller scale than something like BoingBoing.
There's one way actually to make pretty good money even if you don't have a very big website. Like Cool Tools gets like maybe 9,000 readers a day, but the tools we review are linked to Amazon, and we get Amazon affiliate revenue, and it's it's good money. It's good, and it's interesting. People go to Cool Tools. The people who go there are buyers.
Mhm.
Like people who go to BoingBoing are readers. We do an Amazon affiliate, and BoingBoing gets like 400,000 readers a day. But I don't think our affiliate revenue is as much as Cool Tools, which has 9,000 readers a day. Is really interesting. Like the types of audience expectations that are set up. So if you have a website where people are expecting, I'm going to come here not to just consume, but to kind of shop. They come with their wallets out, so to speak. And so if you develop a website kind of like that, if you have a webcomic site where you kind of focus on cool merchandise that you have, that could be a good possibility for revenue, even if you don't have a large number of readers. And that again plays into the 1,000 true fans kind of thing. If 1,000 people like you and pay you $100 a year, that's $100,000 gross. An individual can make a living off of that if their expenses are not too high.
One thing I get into with people about the whole music piracy thing, well, a couple things. One of which is if we have no problem with it. We're like, our CDs have no real value in the real world anyway, so go for it. If that gets it in the ears of people who like what you do, then that's a great problem to have. But the way I kind of explain it to people, and you educate your audience, is that people pay for what they respect. Part of the reason that a lot of people will go out and steal things is because a lot of the music out there is garbage. I mean, it really is. And I can't tell you the number of people that come up to our shows and they're like, yeah, I downloaded your entire catalog and now I'm buying your CDs, or I'm buying artwork, or I'm buying a t-shirt, or whatever. You can go and listen to everything we've ever done directly through our website. I have directories online that are accessible to DJs where they can download tons of what we do. It's, so if you can create, once again, that personality, that brand, that thing that people hook onto as something worth supporting, they become very proud to be able to support you. And I don't mean that to sound mercenary. You try and be as honest with your fan base as you can. But it's true. Social engineering. We need you guys in order to continue to do what we do, and our end is to continue to make things that appeal to you. It has to be a whole big thing.
I mean, ultimately, the question isn't necessarily, do I make money with ads? Do I make money on iTunes versus Bandcamp? Do I make money, making a limited edition thing? The first question is actually, am I making something that people want, And that is really the hardest step. I mean, it takes years, I suppose.
When I went to art school, I was, my first year, I think I was 19 or 20, and I was talking to one of the teachers, and she said to me, I made some comment about a style I was working, some stupid pretentious statement that you make when you're 19, and she was like, oh, that's cute. You're not going to have a style, you're not going to, essentially, you're not going to have your shit together until you're maybe in your mid-30s. And she was absolutely right. And I'm saying this as somebody who's, I just did the math on this. In the last 8 years, I've done 2,000 paintings. I've done 20 albums, published 3 books, and incrementally in these tiny little experience points, you get to the point where you're starting to be able to realize your vision and the things that you do. So you have to be really patient and recognize the fact that for 15 years you may be eating ramen, and that 16th year you may be eating ramen with some meat in it. And you never know if you're ever going to get out of that, and then you have to be okay with it. I think we got about a minute left, so yeah.
Those are the last questions.
Please come into the dealer room and buy the things we make. We're poor.
Would you guys like to add any last thoughts for the last minute or so? Just
Sure. I post every week how much money I make and how many things I have produced. It is online at my Tumblr, hellothefuture.tumblr.tumblr, whatever. And the advice I always give when people ask me, should I do this, you know? And I'm like, of course you should do this. Don't be stupid about the money part. Figure out honestly how much profit you're going to make on every little thing and realize that it's, 1/10 of what you expect. And talk to someone about the taxes and talk to someone else. And don't feel like you failed if you're making money from something else. It is much more important to be able to pay your rent and to be able to do all the things you need to do than to say, I am a full-time whatever, That doesn't mean anything. There are a lot of people who are making amazing work who also have other jobs. So that's my thought.
That's basically what I was going to say, is what Nicole said. The composer Charles Ives was like an insurance salesman his whole life, and he composed like amazing kind of avant-garde symphonies. I would say if you have a day job, don't quit it. Just keep on going. The sacrifice in time is much better than worrying how you're going to pay the rent, definitely. That's not, you will always find time for something that you're passionate about. And so if you have a job and you also have a passion about something, just do it, and it will eventually work out. You'll come to that point where you make the decision to go into free fall. But don't do it until you're really making some money and you know that you've got a shot.
It always upsets me isn't the right word, but it pisses me off sometimes when I hear people say, I must create, or I must write, I must paint, or whatever. Because it's not that you must. If you got your hands chopped off, you would still survive. What I like to think, and what I hope, and certainly for myself, what I mean when somebody says that is, I would do this thing whether or not I was making money off of it. And if that's the case, then do the thing. And if your end goal is, I want to make money off of this thing that I feel like you're looking at it backwards if you're saying, I want to make a living doing this thing that I do. I didn't expect to be a full-time musician. It's not, my major was in basically watching film and television, not even creating it, just, the bullshit version of that. But when somebody says do the thing you love and success will come, don't necessarily think success means eventually this will be my career. Success is, I am happy doing this thing, and maybe you're never going to make your living off of it, but if you're still happy doing the thing, then I say for me, that's the definition of success. Yeah.
I think there's an important distinction here, though, because you can saying I want to make a full-time living as a musician is, throw the dice. But saying I want to live a lifestyle where I can perform music for people.
That's true, yeah.
Is a completely different thing. And then you ask yourself a whole different set of questions.
Yeah.
All right, well, we better let the next Ninja versus everyone do it. The winner is Enlightenment.
They're already in here.
Thank you.
Just can't see 'em.